I'm just trying to, how do I do this? All right, I guess I'm gonna just hold on to the axle because I don't want to hold on to the wires. All right, get ready for something crazy to go on right now. Hey guys, Duff here. This is my perfectly good Sherman. Runs great. But we're going to rip it apart anyways. Wish me luck. Okay guys, I have had the Knobby tire for my Sherman that eWheel sent me when I originally bought the Sherman. That's been sitting here since December, maybe? Oh, somewhere around 6 months. I've had the Knobby tire available to me. I haven't changed it because I've been satisfied with the road tire. The road tire on this wheel has been just fine for me, but that is one of the things I'm going to be doing today. I also have the new wider rim for the Sherman. We're going to be trying to put that on. That should be an adventure. We're going to swap out the Knobby tire. We're going to trim back those couple ribs on the side pieces here that can potentially cause damage to the BMS and the battery pack. We're going to be doing that as well. Is that it? I think that's it, but that's enough. You know, that's enough. I've had some trepidation about doing this, but we're going to do it. So let's get started. So you know things are getting serious when I have not one but two work tables in here. I have my normal work table, fold-up work table, and I also have my old workmate, which was sitting out in one of our sheds. I pulled that in here. I'm not sure why the GoPro shut off there, but yeah, we have more space here to put more parts because there's going to be a lot of parts involved. So I've watched a couple videos, people doing this job. I watched Shane. I forget the other guy that did like an hour-long video, basically just covering the motor part of it, not the actual disassembly of the Sherman. So we are going to, I might have to refer back to it if I forget something or if I get stuck, but hopefully I don't. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is taking off the pedals. And to do that, there should be a nice big hex screw in here. But I mean, you guys know how to take off pedal hangers, right? So I did already remove the exo armor from this section. I'm wondering if I can get away with just removing the bottom pieces. I might have to pop off the side pieces as well, but I'm just, at this point, I'm going to try to just get away with taking off the lower exo armor. See how that works. So I'll get these bolts out and we will pop the pedals and then we'll take the side off. So just taking the grub screws off both sides, and then I should be able to slide out the pin that the pedals rotate on. And that's it. Okay, there's no spacer. I thought sometimes there's a spacer right in this section here. No spacer, so one pedal off. All right, so let's take the side cover off on this side. So generally speaking, you want to be careful using power tools on your EUC, especially when it comes to tightening things up. You don't want to strip them. But you also want to make sure that you're not stripping things on the way out, so you want to make sure that you're using a bit that fits the screw well so it doesn't strip it out. Now, I've never had the sides off my Sherman, but it's nice that instead of using shitty wood screws that you see, used especially on Gotways, these are actually machine screws that probably have brass offsets on the other side. So let me get these all out. And I'll be back with you in a second. All right, I have all the screws removed. Let's see how easily this pops off. The answer is very easily. That's good. Okay, so I'm gonna go, wow, look how clean the inside of my Sherman is. Can you tell that I don't expose it to a lot of bad riding conditions? Nice. So, like I said, one of the things that needs to be done is trimming some of these ribs out here. And I'm going to go reference my picture quickly And I think I might do that up front here, just as soon as I take it off, just so that part of it is out of my hair. So let me go check my picture and get the tool I'm going to use to do it. I'm using this little Ryobi 1 Plus vibrating tool to cut these ribs out. This is a metal cutting blade, so it makes quick work of it. It's not the cleanest cut, but basically what you're doing here is you're removing this rib, and this rib on both. As the side cover is facing you like this, this is the bottom, this is the top. These 3 ribs are the ones you're supposed to be removing, so that's what I'm doing. Not beautiful, but the ribs are now history. Okay, I've now flipped it over and we're going to be duplicating that procedure on this other side. Pedal comes off, side cover comes off. Now removing some ribs. All right, so I need to get the exo armor or the frame off. So I know you have these screws that hold it together at the bottom, and we have to see what's holding it at the top. I'm not sure that there is a whole lot holding it at the top. Let me flip this over and do it to the other side and see if we can knock this apart. The other question that I'm not sure of is if this procedure is going to totally screw with my LED light setup. If I'll be able to do this without trashing it. I guess we will find out together, right? There's a couple spots where I have it zip tied to the frame, so I disconnected that. So now I took out these screws here, took these out. So what else potentially is holding this? Well, let me go get a mallet. Okay, so I had to release the tape I have there to hold the lights on, but this is now loose. So I think at this point it's just working it out of this bottom bracket here. You know, the 2 halves come together and they're held in place by those screws. So I have my mallet, and I have some wood. Okay, that's moving, nice. Nice little rubber mallet. Now I'm gonna have to flip it on the other side and keep hammering. The second side came out easier than the first. All right, there we go. Just disconnect the harness from my lights. All right, there we go. Lights are pretty much intact, that's good. This is the back of the frame. See, luckily, I can imagine if your frame has taken a beating, this process would be probably a lot more difficult because mine is more or less intact. It came off pretty damn easy. So that's great. All right, frame's off. All right, so I suppose what I should do next is pop off the cover to the control board and then disconnect the battery, discharge the capacitors. All right, that sounds like a good plan. This Workmate really is a great tool in a job like this. The ability to just pop it, lifting the Sherman without the roll cage is a good way to build up some finger endurance. All right, so let's do that. Let's try it. This thing is really super flexible as far as this configuration goes. Okay, there we go. Okay. Of course, the weight of this thing on this 20-year-old Workmate might not be the best thing, but all right, we're sitting on there. There's 4 screws that hold on this cover. Now, unlike the side panel screws, I don't know if these are threaded inserts as well or if these are wood screws. That kind of looks like a machine screw, so yeah, okay, good. So again, you have threaded inserts. These are smaller screws, however, so make sure you separate them from your other ones. So let me get these out and see if we can get the cover off. Okay, my current dilemma is I took out these 4 screws And this is still very tight. I'm not, it's never been apart, so maybe that's why, but it's not popping off or anything. I noticed that there's screws here and here. I don't know what those are for. I loosened them, it doesn't make a difference, so maybe I should put them back in. So I don't know if I just need to be prying this to get it loose, maybe the first time. Don't want to be too use too much brute force here. All right, I'll figure it out. I'll be back. Okay, I'm a bit confused because all the examples I found of people taking this cover off, they remove the 4 screws and this just pops right off. Well, this does not want to just pop right off. It feels like it's on there extremely securely. I cannot just pop it off. And the next step would be to apply some leverage to the corners, but I shouldn't have to do that, so still scratching my head a bit. One thing I am sure of is that these 2 screws up here don't have anything to do with it. They just hold the shell halves together, so you know, we don't want to screw with them, so we're going to put them back in place, but that doesn't get me any closer to getting the control board cover off. Okay, what I did is I took my little Phillips head screwdriver, got it here at an angle, and just started popping it with a rubber mallet. And okay, there we go. Oh, it was just kind of wedged in there, really. All right, so to do this correctly, we're gonna disconnect the batteries, and we're not gonna pull the freaking connector plug apart to do it like a dumbass. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. So now we hit the power button. Okay, what that does is that releases any stored energy in the capacitors of the wheel. So I'm gonna have to disconnect this system board, I believe. Well, either that or just take the, okay, maybe if I just take the yeah. I'm just gonna take the handle off because I think doing that will just allow me to slide the system board cover over the trolley just to get it out of the way so I can work on the motor wires. There's just 4 screws here to hold the top of the trolley handle on. Do that, do that. There we go. You can just get it out of the way because everything is sealed with black goop. So, all right, so the important thing, or one of the important things, there's lots of important things here, but one of the more important things is you mark these motor wires before you take them off to make sure that they go back on in the right spot. I'm just going to mark them F, M, and R for front, middle, right, rear. That will make sense to me. So I'm going to do that. And then the other challenge is people have said they've had a hard time getting these off because they put like a clear shrink wrap over the motor wire connections. And some people said that they actually were able to get that off. I don't really see how that's going to come off very easily, but we'll give it a try, but I want to mark these first. All right, all my Sharpies are dried up, so instead I have an old shitty marker. So what I'm doing is the front one, I'm having a wide, thick band. The middle, I'm putting nothing on it, and the rear, I'm putting a nice, big, long stripe on it. So that makes perfect sense, right? As long as I remember where it goes. So what I'm doing is just taking out my little needle nose and just pulling this clear wrap away so I have a clear shot at the screws, because some people have complained that they're having a really hard time getting these motor connector screws off. So you want to make sure that you're using a Phillips head that is a good fit for these screws, that it is in there tightly, and then they should come out with a little issue. That wasn't hard to turn out at all, actually. But I think some people were actually trying to just punch right through that clear cover over these motor mounts, and that's I think that's a no-go for sure. You don't want to do that. All right, so let's take these out. It's a bolt and a washer for each one. My screw organization plan is getting a little convoluted at this point. All right, so don't forget, fat marking in the front, nothing in the middle, long stripe in the back. If I just keep telling myself that, I'll remember, right? All right, so these should just come right off. Yeah, there you go. Boom. Leave a little wrap there. And boom, motor wires are out. Now, don't I also have, all right, so this is, I am going to have to get the goop off because this connector is going to have to come out. So I'm going to very carefully try to remove that black goop. All right, it's out. Be very, very careful here, because obviously you don't want to damage the wires. So I've heard some people say, yeah, take a razor and go around here. I just carefully used my my needle nose and just worked on that silicone because I get very nervous about the possibility of cutting wires in that situation. So, all right, so that's good to go. Now I'm going to put this back on the table over here on its side and remove the pedal hanger screws. So remember what I said about making sure that your screws are nice and organized, something like this, and then when you leave your screw organizer on the table next to your Sherman, and then you lay your Sherman on the table and it knocks your screw organizer on the floor and all your screws are thrown all over the place, it kind of defeats the purpose, right? And pisses you off. Oh, I forgot to mention also this kit, the upgrade kit, also includes different pedal hangers as well. They are technically higher, but it looks like the real, wow, these aren't that tight at all, I'm surprised. The actual difference in height is something like 1/4 inch. It's negligible. So like if you see this kit and your primary thing is you want higher pedal hangers, for like more clearance off-road or something, I don't really think it's worth the trouble to get a 1/4 inch of additional clearance, do you? All right, so we're going to take these 6 screws off at both sides, flip it over, and see what happens next. As I'm thinking about my next steps, I am realizing that I am going to have to peel back the LEDs, maybe from one side, peel back to here to allow this to slide out. So, and depending on how well they adhere going back, it could be a problem. We'll see. Worst case, I buy another $30 set of LEDs. Not that expensive. The job wasn't that difficult, so not the end of the world. But for efficiency's sake, if you're thinking about getting LED lights and putting them on your Sherman, you might want to do this kind of upgrade first. When I put those LED lights on, I really had no set plans to open up the wheel. And that is definitely a negative though with this configuration I have with these lights, because if I had to change a flat, because to change a flat you're basically doing the same thing, you're pulling the motor out, right? Those LEDs are going to have to get moved in order for the motor to slide out. Okay, one side done. Let's turn it around. Okay, I got the other set of screws out, so now we gotta fish the wires through. Look, okay, that's my long mark, so that's the rear one, right? Remember that. That's the fat mark, so that's the front. That has no mark, so that's the middle. And hall sensor wire. Okay, so there we go. So now I've peeled back my LCD lights, which kind of made me a little sad. But I believe at this point the motor should start releasing. Okay, it's definitely loose. But I need to be able to fish these wires through this hole while I'm doing this. So let me work my magic here. Okay, the key to me was, or for me, was to just lift this as I was pulling here, carefully guiding the wires through. We don't want them to get damaged in this process. So we very carefully. All right. Sherman motor is out. I can't say I feel real happy about this. I totally ripped off the LED lights. They were just kind of hanging and getting in the way. So yeah, good luck to me on getting that reattached, but we'll see. So here we go. There is the Sherman motor. So now the next step is breaking loose the axle nuts, which any of you that have ever worked on EUCs, or especially Gotway wheels that are infamous for having their axle nuts loosen up, you know how much fun it is to work on the axle nuts. Now I just bought this tool. I actually have something else in the garage that probably works, But this is it's described as, well, a ratchet wrench. And the reason that this works well on these axle nuts is it's an open, and I'll have a link in the description below, but it's open. So you can just slide over the wires. And this thing is all greasy and yucky. All right. You just slide it over the wires like this. You know, because some people, well, a lot of people, like wind up like taking a conventional socket and cutting a slot in it. With this one, you do not have to do that. Having a little breaker bar in that would be nice. Let's see. Usually this is best done when the wheel is in a vertical position. So, and it would be good if I could lock these down, because it's a real bitch otherwise. It is. I grabbed a couple clamps I have here, clamped it to the workmate, and just started hitting the end of this with my rubber mallet, and that was enough to break it loose. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, right? All right. And this is a 24mm socket, by the way. The kit I got, it has 24 and a 21-inch tool in it. I think it was like 20 bucks, maybe. Just wondering if I want to put the knobby on a while. Well, I think I can take these off and then do the knobby. All right, so just slide that off. Slide off the nut. That side should be ready to carefully get your hall sensor wire through there. You don't want to pull on it for sure. All right, okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm just going to break the other side loose, and then I'll, before I change, well, no, what am I saying? I gotta change the rim first, dumbass. Right? Don't be a dumbass. You gotta change the rim because it's going on a different rim, and then I'll worry about the tire. I'm so smart sometimes. It's breaking loose. My clamp is letting loose as well. And there's surely better ways to do this, but it seems those quick strikes with the mallet don't require you to have it as secured as if you were just trying to crank on it. That's usually one of the shittier parts of the job, and that was not so bad, so that's nice. Now, one of the things that has been stressed repeatedly, let's see, these shims have to come out. There's little shims here. Did I just knock them out? I'm not quite sure. Able to get a flat edge screwdriver underneath that and pop it out. You can see pretty easily the orientation of the shims based on the wear marks. So I'm just going to keep those there. So that's okay. That's wire side. And now the old pedal hanger can be removed. Right? Carefully. As always. One of the things that's stressed here is you want to make sure that when we're doing this rim change and stuff is that we're not stressing these wires. You don't want to bend them, do anything funky with those wires. Okay, this little spacer, yeah, that's gonna have to come off too, I guess, right? I saw the one guy like struggling like crazy to get this spacer off. Again, probably a byproduct of, you know, if the wheels, you know, you're jumping with it a lot, doing all that kind of stuff. In my case, I am not. Now, one of the nice things about using a table like this is I can just turn it upside down and the wires just hang down below. So there is no stress on those wires. That is definitely something to avoid. All right, let's see if we can just pop this shim out like the other ones. This one's not quite as easy as the other one. All right, just took a little patience. Got that side off. All right. We are down to the nitty gritty. I'm gonna let the air out of the tire a while. All right, so we are now removing the motor cover bolts. I'm just going to go through and break each one loose. This is where things can get a little hairy. I have some experience with this when I was messing around with the old V11 motor that Zen Lee sent me, and got to see what happens when the magnets snap back together unexpectedly. You need to make sure that you are very careful during this part of it, because you could seriously hurt your fingers while doing this. Okay, so they're all loose, so I'm going to get the screws out of this side. One other thing, there is a additional spacer right here. Make sure you do not lose this. Make sure you put that back on when you're done, or things will not have the proper clearance as they should. So I got to make sure I take that off the motor wire side as well. Now there is another thing you have to pay attention to. I got an email from eWheels about this. When you're putting the new rim in, you'll notice that the magnets, there's more space on one side of the rim versus the other. The side that has more space, that is the side that should be facing the motor wire side of the motor. So make sure you do that, or it will not line up correctly, and bad things could happen. I don't know exactly the extent of those bad things, but they're bad, so don't do it. Okay, so I'm on to the part where I'm trying to get the motor cover off the non-wire side. And I've referred back to a couple of the videos that I watched earlier, and it looks like it's just kind of a tedious process where you're just kind of working it slowly until you can get this side off, because you do need to get the one side off, and I believe it's this side always, at least from the examples I've seen. So I'm slowly going around. Okay, it's getting closer. I'm going around and just kind of working it here. Hi, honey. I'm sorry. I got stuff in front of the window, baby. I'm sorry. Okay, it feels like it's coming loose now. I'm using my tire pry tools. Okay, so that's. I almost have it. Here we go. Motor cover is removed. Look at that beautiful motor. All right, so now here comes the fun part, or I should say, here comes the dangerous part. So what we need to do is I need to first have a solid surface here to press on. So let me put this back in temporarily. Now what I'm going to do is I have a piece of 4x4 here that I am going to use as the base that I'm going to be pressing against. You take the side without the wires that you just remove the cover to, place it on the wood, and then push down with some gusto. Like that. These magnets are trying to hold the wheel together, so you need to be very careful. Hold this down with your arms until you're sure that the motor is clear, and pull it out. Motor is out. Okay, love you, bye. All right, there we go. One old rim. So I can take, well, yeah, I need to take the tire off this old rim. I was gonna say, do I really need to? But yeah, I need to, because I need an inner tube. I don't have another inner tube, so. I just got it started with a tire lever, and I'm trying to do the rest by hand because I'm very paranoid about wrecking tubes with tire tools, because I've done it a lot. So let's see if we can get this sucker out now. Okay, it's still holding air, so that's good. One Sherman tube removed. I guess I'll keep this, well, I'm definitely keeping the road tire for sure. The old rim, I don't know. Let's set that out of the way. I'll deflate this a little bit better. So now we need the new rim, the new wider rim. This is it. and new pedal hangers. Courtesy of E-Wheels. All right, all I'm worried about right this moment is the rim. When I saw a picture of the difference between the two rims, it was pretty dramatic. Since I don't have the tire out of there, I'm not going to put it side by side, but it was like a third bigger, this new rim. So when I look at it, I have more of a gap on this side. So this would be the side for the motor wires. So makes sense to put the motor back in first, right? Don't you think? I think so. So let's get that fun fest out of the way here. So I think you basically just drop it in and make sure you don't kill your fingers. So we have the wider gap up because I'm going to drop it through with the wires up. All right, so here we go. I'm just trying to, how do I do this? All right, I guess I'm going to just hold on to the axle because I don't want to hold on to the wires. All right, get ready for something crazy to go on right now. Whew. Okay, there's a lot of force there for sure. All right, so now I need to put the covers on both sides, and this is a bit of a delicate and tedious operation. You have to do this slowly and alternate back and forth. Now you could, I'd have to pop it apart again to do this. You could put a new layer of sealant on this if you wanted to. There's still sealant on the lip of the cover, so I'm not putting more sealant on here, but that might be something that you might want to do. So anyways, what I'm doing is I'm just getting these started, and then I will be slowly torquing back and forth, which should slowly seat this cover flush against the new rim. So it's going to take a while. I'll come back if there's anything cool that happens. Just going back and forth. I heard the thing sort of, the cover sort of seat itself already, so I think we're getting pretty close here. And you can also just eyeball it and just make sure that the cover looks like it's firmly seated to the rim. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue alternating sides, alternating torquing, and then we get to do the same thing on the other side. All right, I'm just going around doing one last tightness check. I've already been alternating back and forth. You can kind of hear when the motor cover just it pops on and seats itself. So you can kind of tell when you're all the way there. All these are feeling nice and snug. I think I am ready to move on to the new pedal hangers. I just went through one GoPro battery, so that's a good indicator that this is taking a really long time. It's kind of cool. The new pedal hangers are wrapped in Chinese newspaper. I actually think I'm going to keep this newspaper for something. I haven't quite decided what yet, but I don't think I've gotten anything wrapped in Chinese newspaper before. Okay, there you go. So there's the new ones. Here's an old one. You can see that the difference is very, very slight. You can see the difference in this hole up here. Very slight, but whatever. I got them, so I'm going to put them on. So now, what did I tell you to remember to do? Put this little washer on. If you don't do that, you're going to not be a happy person. And this is underneath this, right? Yeah, that was underneath that. And then this would go on like that, and then the shims would slide in like this. It's always dangerous when I'm just working off memory. Slide in like that, and at that point I think I'm ready to put a nut back on. Wow, nice. Let's do that. Just get this started. No, I'm not putting red Loctite on this. There wasn't red Loctite on it from the factory, so I'm not going to put red Loctite on it either. Oh wow. All right, the cover just snapped on a little bit more, huh? So because it did that, I am going to go around and do another round of torquing on these bolts. All right, I was able to get a little tiny additional turn on those motor cover screws, so just keep that in mind. All right, we're putting our little spacer on first, don't forget that. And then we are putting the washer on top of that. There we go. And pedal hanger number 2. Thankfully, Cindy brought me some coffee. All right, there we go. Highly helpful. All right, I'm going to put the shims in, get the axle nut on, and then we will proceed to tightening the axle nuts on both sides. And I might have been fibbing earlier. I do see what looks like it could be some red Loctite residue on this axle nut. I didn't really notice it on the other one, but if they use it, they didn't use a whole lot of it. So see if we get that pop again. Okay, no pop on this side. I'm kind of brute forcing it down here. Holding on to the pedal hanger and applying leverage. On this side though, we don't want to damage the wires, so we'll put it in here to do this. This actually works out kind of good, but the second wrench that I have, I can stick it through the hole for the frame and hold it in place that way. Sort of. That is probably my strongest leverage position. Basically doing a chest fly. Okay. I can apply a lot of leverage that way. All right. Let me just flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. And I will consider the axle nuts sufficiently torqued. I think Shane said that it took him about 100 foot-pounds of pressure to break it loose. So let's reassume the pec deck position. Oh yeah, I can really torque the shit out of it this way. All right, good. All right, that's tight. So I've seen some people, make sure that the pedal hangers are lined up, but I don't really know how it would not be lined up because the axle has a flat spot on it to make sure that the pedal hangers are lined up. That is sitting flush, so that's good. That's what we want. All right, motor is in the new rim. And now we get to do one of my other favorite things, tires. I love doing tires. All right, here it is. My Knobby tire that I've had sitting in a box for damn close to 6 months. And the bad news is it feels stiff. It feels stiff. If you've ever put tires on, stiff is not an adjective that you want with your tire. But we're gonna give this a go anyways. I'm gonna, let's see. We'll do it this way. Although it probably isn't good to have an opening underneath, I don't know. Let me think about this. All right, I'm getting the first bead on with body weight, basically. There we go. Okay, well, yeah, I mean the tire is actually on. See, there you go. That's a trick that I've found is using body weight and just leaning on it with your hand. Works pretty well. Now, of course, I have to get the tube in. I have to get the tube in yet. And we all know that's the fun part, right? And let's see, the nozzle was facing the wire side. That's something you probably want to take a note of. How am I going to make room for the tube? Because there is no room right now. Freaking GoPros screwing up left and right here. All right, I had to take the tire off again to get the inner tube in. I put the inner tube into it. I slipped it off the rim, and then I fished the fill valve through first, and then just again used my pushing with my weight technique, being very careful to not pinch the tube in the process. And the reason I like doing it this way is because you're not introducing anything sharp that could potentially puncture the inner tube. So that, at least in theory, that's my theory. So now what I want to do is I want to add some air to it and cross my fingers that it holds. All right, I put 15 PSI in there and it's holding steady. Nice. I don't believe I have any holes. All right, cool. That was not as bad as I thought it might be. I heard some people say that the wider rim, it was more difficult for them to get the tire on. That was not difficult at all. I doubt that I can really tell how well I'm seated on the rim, but it looks even on the bead at least. So yeah. All right. Hopefully the hardest part is done. Okay, very important tip. I was, while my battery was recharging on the GoPro, I was trying to slide the motor back into the case over there, and it was hanging up. It would only go in, only the one side would go in. So I'm like, oh shit, I gotta take it apart. And getting it apart was a challenge because it was kind of wedged in there because of this problem. The problem was that I wasn't paying attention to these shims when I put it back together, and one of them was sticking out, probably, I don't know, a few millimeters. And it was preventing the pedal arm, the hanger, from seating correctly in the shell. So make sure that these are flush. They are not sticking out on both sides of your shims. And also, when I had to loosen this, of course, to adjust these, tightening it again with the workmate, just laying this on its side, it's a good way to make sure your pedals are even, you know, because they are on the table like this. So that worked. That turned out to be a better way to tighten the pedal arms. So now I'm going to try to put it back on the shell. And hopefully it's a lot easier this time. Okay, I just realized that the mic was unplugged when I was giving the recap of my probably 60-minute ordeal trying to slide this in and not realizing why it wasn't sliding in. If you could not hear me, the reason was because the shims were not flush on the pedal arms. One of them was sticking out enough that it was making it hang up in this slot here, so it couldn't seat itself in there, and I wound up like wedging the case on top of the, which, as you can imagine, was not fun to get back apart. So now I'm trying to fish the wires up through this hole. You have to do this before you start sliding the wheel in. And I mean, so far I have not found a graceful way to do this. Doesn't mean that there isn't one, but it just means that I have not found it. All right, stick your hand in from the front, pull that through. We got one more. Put your hand through the front, stick it through the slot. All right, here we go. So now, it's kind of a pain because you have to keep guiding these wires as you're doing this, obviously, because you don't want them pinched. My hall wire sleeve, it was pulled away from the base when I started, and I used some electrical tape to try to hold it in place, and it has not worked. It's already worked its way loose. Let me see if I can do it again. I would like to keep the sheath in place down here for all the wires. Motor wires are fine, but the hall wire sheath does not want to stay put. So we'll try one more time with my Super 33 electrical tape. Let's try this again. I don't like this pinching action right down here. Come on, it's better. All right, better. I can already tell that's slid on much better than before. Yeah, like when I looked in the middle, the tire was like pushed to one side. That's definitely better now. Man, this is beating the hell out of me. Okay, after fixing the shims so they're flush on the pedal arms, I believe I have it slid back together. I got 2 screws on that side. I just want to make sure that I can get the screws on the other side. Oh my God, guys. Throwing around an 80-pound wheel repeatedly gets to be tiring. I understand why Marty didn't want to do this. I asked him if he was going to get the wider rim upgrade, and he didn't feel like it. The benefit was really there. You know, his tire is fine as is, and a 1/4 inch of clearance doesn't really matter. But in my case, you know, I have the Knobby to put on, so I had kind of a reason to take it apart anyways. And doing that little rib removal trick for the BMS, that's a good idea. Which I think he might be doing that mod, but that's very easy. So, all right, I just want to get 2 of these on both sides. And once I have 2 of these on both sides, that means that the motor is reattached to the case, which means hopefully the hard part is behind me. Knock on presswood. We've moved from the part of the project from being powered up by Dunkin' Donuts to being powered up by Miller Lite. Not sponsored. All right, pedal hanger screws are back in. So we now need to fish the motor wires back up top. So do you remember my methodology here for the wires? What went where? Yeah, me either. No, I remember. The front was the fat marking. The middle motor mount had no markings, and the back one had a line on it. So there's our front, there's our middle, and this should be the back. So there's our back. So I need to, I'm going to carefully reattach these, making sure they're nice and tight, and then I guess try to move that plastic stuff back in place, I guess. I don't know. All right, so middle. Let's do the middle. Like I saw when Shane did this, he said that he put some dielectric grease on the fitting. I don't have any of that, so I'm not going to be doing that. But that just oh, you suck. Ooh, boy. If that would have dropped inside from my carelessness, I would have been really upset about that. I have tools just like strewn everywhere. Looks like a freaking tornado went through here. All right, so let's carefully retrieve this without dropping it. There we go. Okay, middle has no marking. It's very important that you connect these wires as they came off, because if you don't, you will likely fry your board, possibly damage the motor, all kinds of bad shit. All right, so it's gonna be a little tricky. I need to pull the plastic shit out of the way so I get some good contact here. You need to make sure that you have very solid contact with that post, because there's lots of current going through there. So if you don't have solid contact, Bad shit can happen. All right, this is the front. So this has the fat connection here. Definitely a little tricky getting this back in. This plastic shit all over the place here. Yeah, I think you really need to make sure that that's pulled completely away, because if you have plastic inadvertently wedged in there in between that motor mount, that's going to be a fail. So I'm pulling it all the way away, and I'm going to attach it, and then I'm going to redo the middle one as well, just because I don't want any possibility of this not being seated correctly. This actually has some of that black goop on it. Of course, you want it tight, but don't put an impact wrench on it. But yeah, you want it tight. All right, so now I'm just going to pull that back around, and we're going to just take this one apart and make sure that there's no plastic there wedged in between. So let me just clean this up, and I'll be right back. I have the motor wires attached. Now the batteries get reconnected, and we power it on, and we see everything still works. Make sure these are firmly attached. As you can imagine, it's kind of an important thing. All right, so surface. Fuck you. God damn it. Okay. I'm gonna turn this shit on. Cross your fingers, guys. She's balancing. Screen looks normal. Nice. I think this is going to actually work. I'm at the point now where I'm just reversing what I did to take it apart. So if you saw the first part, I don't know that you need to watch me put everything back together, right? So let me work on this, and if there's something noteworthy or a problem I run into, I will let you know, but otherwise I'm just reversing what I started with. All right, so I'm able to actually even use the workmate here to mount the roll cage. Just using the rubber mallet to tap the pieces in. Working out pretty good, actually. So I just got to flip it on its side and make sure the pieces are fully seated, and then screw them back in, right? All right, we are making some progress here. Got the frame attached again. So now we are putting the sides back on. Obviously the cage, the roll cage needs to be in tight enough for this to fit. Okay, this is going to be just kind of get a couple in to hold it in place, and then just work the cage in. I'm doing okay, good, I got them all. When I spilled the screw container, I thought I picked everything up, but I did not. I was missing a bunch of these side panel screws. I found some on the floor, some buried on the table, but the good news is I have all of these screws back in place. This thing is together, man. Just got to put the pedals on. Wow, only consumed 1 day. Nice. All right, guys, the project is done. This was one of the most involved projects I've ever done on an EUC. It probably actually is the most involved project I've done on an EUC, now that I think about it. So it came out well. I need to go out and take it for a test ride, but everything appears to be working as it should be so far. I'm trying to think gotcha-wise. I mean, I had trouble for some reason, getting the cover off, the control board cover. But the biggest gotcha and the biggest time waster was when I did not make sure that the shims were flush in the new pedal hangers. I was screwing with that for, like I said, off camera for probably damn close to an hour to figure out what the hell was going on. And once I took it back apart, I could figure it out. So, but all in all, not too bad. Of course, be very, very careful when you are both removing and inserting the new motor into the rim. It has the capacity to cause great harm to you if you are not careful how you go about doing that. So I know this is a long video. Hopefully you find it helpful. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If this is your first time visiting the channel, think about subscribing. And if you're going to subscribe, you can hit the notify bell, which is over there somewhere. I have membership on my channel. I have a few members. Very inexpensive, but you get some nice perks with it. Here's the members, and they're awesome. I love them. Members are the best, man. They're extreme. Extreme. Feel free to leave your comments, suggestions, ideas, and thoughts below. I know a number of people have done this project, and more are going to be doing it. So like I said, hopefully this video helps aid you in that process. I'll have a link in the description below for this tool that I got off Amazon. Very helpful for all of your axle nut needs in the future. So guys, I'm gonna go out and take it for a ride. I'm gonna worry about cleaning this shit up, this hellhole that I've turned the hobby room into. I'll clean it up tomorrow, and I will see if I'm able to reattach my LED lights, because they are no longer attached, as you can tell. I don't know, I think if I clean this up well with isopropyl alcohol, I might be able to get it to stick again, so we'll find out. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys, and till next time, Duffman out. Feels good.